You all for joining us tonight. Marriage Fit Friday. Yes, it's the weekend. Congratulations. We've made it. Made it to another weekend. So thank you all for joining us for this Marriage Fit Friday. So go ahead and relax, grab a drink, favorite snack, food, or whatever the case may be. And let us remind you again that this is a live call in show. So at any moment in time, if you have anything that you would like to talk about, please send us a comment in the comment box. Drop that question in there, or either you can also join in video call or phone or voice, whatever that is that we have. If you want to also leave an anonymous message, you can go to www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question, and we'll be sure to review it, and possibly it will be the topic of the next show. So with that being said, tonight's topic is, can couples with different interests have happy relationships?
Mm.
So this is an interesting dynamic. We don't always share the same hobbies and the same likes and things in relationships. Men and women, we're both different. So our hobbies are naturally not the same. They don't align, but you may have those cases in which they do. But tonight we're going to talk about how to navigate those different interests.
Hmm.
Correct?
Yeah. Based off of a great question. So we're going to go ahead and pull our question up on our screen for tonight. That's going to help us set the stage for what's going on with this topic. I am trying to see here. This thing always does this. Acts a little funny. Yeah, I was about to say, check our mics. There we go. All right. Let's head on in.
Mm.
Tonight is Friday night, too. So this is a new night, a new start of the weekend. We're hoping we have a good turnout tonight. But in general, let's go ahead and get started as people come on in. We'll keep them caught up. So the subject was, my boyfriend thinks we don't have enough in common. I had a long talk last night that ended with my boyfriend saying he is worried we don't have enough in common. We've been dating for about 8 months. I'm 25 and he's 30. He has pretty specific interests, mostly Wars and World of Warcraft. He works in tech, whereas I'm a creative writing MFA program right now. We're also long distance and have to fly to see each other for the next 5 months ish. I think he might have unrealistic expectations of his partner. He might not see women as full people who are never going to be a magical perfect match. I felt bad having to say to him that I don't think the perfect woman exists because it implies that it's not me. I feel like we have a lot in common. We're both child free, we're both kinky and have a great sex life. We both have the same values and goals for how we want to live. We have little things in common too, like a love of cats and spooky things, as well as both enjoying going out to eat, hiking, going for walks and traveling when possible. Since we started dating, I've put a lot of time into getting to know his hobbies. I've watched probably about 90% of Star Wars canon. I've gotten to know F1 racing, watched the races, and learned about the drivers. I watched him play WoW when is that
World of
WoW?
Warcraft.
Yeah, did I say WoW? I don't know.
Yeah, you can call them.
Wow, when we hang out over Discord, which is most nights, as well as listen to lore videos with and without him. I've genuinely enjoyed getting to know these things and would probably keep up with them if the relationship ends. He's frustrated that I don't know about his interests to the same degree as him, though, since these are things he's been interested in most of his life. I try my best to remember names and timelines, but Star Wars and WoW have a lot I need to remember to keep everything straight. WoW has a new expansion, and it's frustrating to him that though I have a lot of fun sharing in his excitement, I can't bring my own same level of excitement to the table. Is this really a problem? That was a loaded story.
No, no, that's not a problem
Yeah.
at all. And the thing is this, yeah, they're geeks, they're nerds. And yes, your boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Has unrealistic expectations for you to want to know everything that you do. And
That
he
he does.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah, everything that he does. So, excuse me, he probably have enjoyed company a lot in college playing video games. And he's wanting that same type of feedback in which you can't provide that to him, and he has to give you grace about that. He has to be very understanding about that. And yes, I agree with you that you don't know all of this stuff, and it will take a while for you to understand all the Star Wars characters, World of Warcraft characters. So be it. But yes, he does have unrealistic expectations. He needs to give you some grace about this, and that's pretty much it. So
Yeah.
it's not relationship ending. It can be very frustrating for you as well. But this isn't a big situational issue, but you need to get it. What I would do is this: you need to get one of his buddies, his friends that knows how to play this stuff, and have him explain to him that you are not up to par to understand all of these things, and it's okay. And you need to let him also play this game or whatever the case may be with uh, other friends of his, other guy friends of his. To be honest with you, because you don't understand the way these games work, and I understand. I had a roommate in college that played World of Warcraft, and I didn't, but it's a role playing game, so it's a level of skill to it. So you don't have to feel as if that you have to know everything about all his hobbies and have to be able to play these games very well. He needs to really have some understanding
Yeah.
about that. And I think that's very childish of him for not understanding these things. I can relate. I mean, I when I started playing video games, I wanted my wife to learn how to play these video games, but she just is not as interested in playing these games as much as I am. Is not going to work out that way, and it's fine. That's perfectly fine because she's not there for that.
Right.
Her role is something else. She provides another category benefits in your life other than playing video games with you and learning your hobbies and Star Wars and all that other stuff. So give her some grace. You go seek and find that male friend of his to have him explain to him that it's okay, and that you know his um his expectations for you is unrealistic.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. That's it.
Yeah, because you don't have to be best friends with your spouse in every way. Like, it's okay to have different interests and different hobbies. In fact, that's really healthy to actually have your own hobbies and stuff. It's just a way for you naturally to stay refreshed and independent in a way within a relationship. It can also give you like some key things. You can have other things to talk about and other ways of sharing different things with each other if you don't necessarily have the same interest. I think that's a part of the fantasy of relationships that men and women do, where you just think that your spouse is supposed to be 100% your best friend in every single way, and that's just it's not realistic. Not really realistic at all. There certainly are benefits to having similar interests in a relationship. We always talk about them. That's always one of the important things that you want to have for sure. Like, of course, it can help keep your relationship fresh. It can keep it exciting. You can have each other not competing so much with each other's time because you're both interested in the similar things. So you can spend that time together. So it's less likely that you're, feeling like having some conflict because you're pursuing other interests, separately. But of course, too, if you don't have similar interests, it'll certainly lead to loneliness within the relationship, isolation, especially if you don't know how to bond with your spouse outside of those interests. And we're going to get all into that tonight, which is the cool thing about this question, because I think it's a good overall topic because of the misconceptions of, we got to hit every box. We got to like everything just the same, when we even see that within our dynamic, we are totally different, but it's the other things that we do that help make us more compatible. And then that actually leads to being able to be more understanding and actually able to navigate a relationship where you don't have similar interests.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there was anything else with this question that I thought about. And now that I say that, in particular, I think when she said the first thing she said was, he's saying he is worried we don't have enough in common. Yet you have mentioned that, you guys, in your mind, you think you do have a lot in common. And in particular, in your mind, you think you are putting a lot of effort into getting to know the things that he likes. But I think maybe this has more to do with overall compatibility. And it's something that maybe just not as aligned like you think they are. And this is really going to require a conversation, a deeper conversation into what, your boyfriend meant by, I think we just don't have a lot in common, that you got to start asking questions, because it's something, we always talk about two people having two separate realities coming together, right? So he's experiencing their relationship may be different from the way she's experiencing their relationships. So the only way that you could really know for sure what exactly he's talking about, maybe he's not talking about the whole the war. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of these games. The Warcraft. He's not talking about that. Maybe it's something else that you all just haven't really, he hasn't expressed per se. Because tonight, that's specifically why we're going to get into some factors that contribute that you probably might be missing on.
Here's the thing. Having something in common, that's only for leisure and entertainment.
Yeah.
That ain't got nothing to do about
compatibility
in a relationship.
Right.
To be honest with you, you could be very compatible with somebody that you have no interested hobbies or any of those hobbies in common with them.
Right.
Because naturally men and women like totally different things.
Right.
So for him to say that,
it's something else.
Well, yeah, I think it's just more so a level of maturity. He's not.
Yeah,
he comes off like this, gamer nerdy guy that all he does want to do, is just game or whatever the case would be, and often at times is very selfish. So that's what I'm seeing. And then also too, you all only been together for 8 months. So the level of compatibility, what you all find common, or things that you all find in common can change, or are more than likely is going to change.
Yeah.
So
especially because they're not living together.
Right. And y'all not exactly. They're not living together. So
and you're long distance.
Right. And then how long is that? I think she says about 5 years or something.
No, she said for 5 months-ish. We are also long distance and have to fly to see each other for the next 5 months-ish.
Right. So I think the real situation, or the real thing here is you all growing in this relationship.
Yeah.
How are you all going to grow in this relationship? That's the real issue, as opposed to thinking about things that you all find in common or worried about him wanting to have more things in common.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, that part is kind of stunting your relationship. The fact that it's so long distance that you all have to fly out and see each other.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that you all only known each other for about 8 months.
Right.
So allow me to dig into that, because that's really what the issue is.
Yeah.
I would hopefully that, in another 8 months, you all choose to live together so that you all can work on living harmoniously to grow and become one and raise a family.
Yeah.
So that way you all have been together for about 16 months, close to 2 years. which is enough time for you all to actually learn each other.
Yes.
It's not about your common interests.
Yes.
That stuff is all about leisure and entertainment.
And
but
has nothing to do with
yeah,
compatibility.
it has nothing to do with overall compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you all need to be building on, is how compatible that you all are together, supporting each other, being of service to each other, and just being there for each other.
How well you can get together, like how well you get together, like overall in the housing dynamic, like living together and stuff like that. That really matters. And in general, what we're really going to touch on tonight is how well you can handle these differences together. Because ultimately, like we're saying, you're going to have these differences. And in fact, usually you are probably going to be a lot different if your man is very masculine and you're very feminine. To be honest, you're probably going to have a lot that's different. And it's really just about how well you can handle it. So,
right.
In particular for this lady, I think she has to have that conversation.
Oh, yeah. She got to have that conversation. She got to talk about compatibility over common interests.
Yeah.
And then also, too, you yourself have to, you all only been together for 8 months. That is a good amount of time to know whether or not you want to pursue a relationship or move forward.
Yeah.
And that is what you all have to review. I would say about a year into this relationship, have a sit down and talk and see whether you all want to continue to move on towards the institution of marriage or not. Because if he's so hard up on, you don't know World of Warcraft and Star Wars, then let him be. Because if he's not trying to work with you and grow in other areas of the relationship, then he's just only holding you back. That's the bottom line. So I think that you all can make it, but he needs to mature up and understand that his hobbies are not your hobbies and be fine with that.
Yeah.
Because that's very selfish, and that's very immature of him to try to base his relationship off of just common interests.
And that's why I actually think it may be more to it. And we don't know for sure, because I always try to pay attention to the wording that people use when they write in, because she says, I think he might have unrealistic expectations of his partner. This is where it's really important not to assume. And I think a lot of it may be from the lack of communication on what's going on, and really in particular, how coming from him. I think maybe you may do a lot of the talking as far as what you expect in your relationship. And because she mentioned in here, I think we have a lot in common. We're both child free, great sex, all of that. Only thing I'm missing is, like, you have to clearly, for you in particular, I would want to go back and clearly ask him questions that are going to help you pin down for sure what he's saying is causing the incompatibility or whatever you don't have in common. Because it's clearly not the games. If she's saying she spent so much time getting to know these games and she's, all that other stuff, it's something it's something else. And I think that's only going to come from her asking questions like, what is it? Like, what is he looking for in a spouse? Ask him, what are you looking for in terms of emotional connection? Ask him, what is he looking for in terms of physical attraction? Maybe ask him, what are your deal breakers, right? What is he looking for in terms of overall compatibility? Because like you said, if he's just basing that off of the games, like, woo, yeah, that's certainly something you got to overcome.
This may be weird, but I think he is, to be honest with you. It ain't.
Wow, that is really, that is mature.
Only because the type of game that she named. I mean, World of Warcraft is kind of like no offense to people who play it. It's kind of like a nerdy game.
Yeah.
But and she didn't say like, Madden, playing football or NBA 2K, where there's a lot of people who do other things outside of their lives that play other games. And by her mentioning World of Warcraft, especially different people played that type of game.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. I know people who play it, and they're different. They're socially different than other people who play games like Madden and Call of Duty and basketball, NBA 2K.
Yeah.
So your hobbies really do explain your personality. That's what I found out. Even video games, the type of video games you play also explain your personality.
Yeah.
And he's very nerdy. If I'm to be very frank with you.
Well, she would have to then ask what would he want from his wife or from that, partner? Like what is he looking for? Does he want her to be fully engulfed? If it's a dress up game, does she want him to dress up and do all of that? Like, I don't, you get what I'm saying? Like, she has to figure out, especially if y'all are actually going to continue to build on a relationship and have different interests and still be happy in the relationship. It has to be there are some common factors, and we can go ahead and dig into them, because I think that would be really helpful for you to pay attention to, of if y'all really have these common factors that need to be in place in order for you to have those different interests and still, be happy within your relationship.
Yep. So couples who share similar values and goals are more likely to be compatible, even if they have different interests, such as these people. So this is because they have common understanding of what is important in life and what they want to achieve. So this means that they agree on what is important in life, such as family, religion, and finances, and they are working towards the same things in life. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that matter more than video games.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has to mature, you know. So
yeah, and what are their goals? And that's the kind of the point, is like, what are your goals outside of, just playing video games together and stuff like that? Like, what are y'all working towards? Do y'all have the same visions? Is it really aligned like that? Right. Because how if you're actively aligned with someone is when you start sharing those goals and you're working towards the same thing. Like, so she says we're both child free and, all this other stuff. So you have the same goals of how you want to live, you think. So what are the steps you're taking to get there? One of them should certainly be, you're 8 months into the relationship. You probably should be trying to figure out, when you're going to move in together, when you're going to move closer together. These long distance relationships, y'all got to understand how important proximity is to the closeness of your bond and your relationship with a person. I understand meeting somebody long distance and you guys, liking each other, or maybe you live together at first and then you end up having to, move apart for jobs or whatever the reason is. But in order for a relationship to continuously progress, you have got to get close to each other. Like, it's so much of a hassle to have to catch a flight to see your boo. Like that, I'm sorry, but the havoc of having to do all of that, coupled with the limited amount of time that you get to spend together and then having to do all of that all over again, it's stressful. It's really stressful. And it takes the joy, the honeymoon feelings, the fun out of the early stages of a relationship. So y'all need some common goals of what y'all moving towards. What are you actually working towards in life that are going to put you all in a better common focus, and not so much on video games, your separate hobbies, things that don't really add much value to you all's family life.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so couples who are able to communicate effectively and resolve conflict in a healthy way are more likely to be able to handle the challenges of having different interests. Yeah. This is because they talk about their differences and find ways to compromise, in which he cannot. And the problem, like my wife said, is because they are not in close proximity. So they need to work on actually living together next. And that's the common compromise that they need to talk about next, if he's real serious about actually marrying her.
Yeah. Long distance relationships are not for the faint of heart. People want to sign up for this stuff, but I think your communication got to be on point to have a long distance relationship. And if y'all aren't able to talk about, your differences and find those ways to compromise and continuously talk and voice your opinions, and like the conversation that you all had, you said you had it last night, the conversation that was last night, it shouldn't have just ended with him saying he's worried that y'all don't have enough in common. Y'all should have kept talking until you problem solved and figure out what are some things that we can do to ease these worries. What are the specific things that you're worried about that we don't have in common? Like, you got to deepen that conversation.
I think the only issue by him saying that is probably the fact. It's two things. Either one, he don't want to be with her, or either two, they're so far apart. He actually wants to be closer with her. That's
Yeah.
that's what the issue is.
Yeah. Certainly could be, but you won't know if you don't have that conversation.
Right.
Y'all aren't talking about it. You can't just, relationships are not having a thought, saying it, and then just leaving it be for the person to muster and over it.
And assume.
Yeah,
we
and
talked about assumptions
assume.
last
Yeah,
night.
you can't. And that is exactly what happened here when you says, I think he might have unrealistic expectations. Don't assume what his expectations are. You
Ask
need
him.
to know. You need to know. What are the things what is he looking for as far as emotional compatibility? What does he want you to do? What is he interested in? What is his fantasies in his mind about what his wife's supposed to do? And in particular, where are your thoughts on this? What does it look like for you? You speak so much on having engulfed yourself and his hobbies and all of this, but where's that give and take of that? Where is he also happy about what you do, or interested in what you do, or wanting to actively work together to have that bond of similar yet different interests? So yeah, communication is certainly one thing that I think needs to be worked on for sure. And all couples who want to have a happy relationship with different interests, which is totally natural, need to have communication.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Effective communication.
Yeah.
So couples who trust and respect each other are more likely to be able to accept each other's differences. This is because they know that their spouse, were you looking for something?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That their spouse is not trying to hurt them, and that they can rely on each other.
Yes.
So trust and respect, definitely respect, and well, both trust and respect. So
yeah, and that's more so too, especially if you're engaged in a hobby that may be around the opposite gender, something where it may make your spouse uncomfortable if they aren't used to it, especially if you're new in a relationship. You got to have that trust and respect of your hobbies and what you do, what it entails, being able to have that open communication about it, so that then you're able to accept it. Yeah. And not think that this person is maliciously trying to spend all their time doing something else, or not interested, make those assumptions.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then couples who have compatible personalities are more likely to get along and enjoy each other's company. So this means that they are not too different or too similar, and they can handle each other's quirks and foibles.
Yes. And I think that's important to note, because although we are very different in the masculine feminine way, we are very similar in the sense of our sense of humors are funny, how we, similar, how we joke, how we communicate. We understand that. Of course, a lot of that too has to do with us being together for so long. We're coming up on 11 years together. So We're talking about years and years and years of learning, natural quirks and habits and behaviors and stuff like that, how to communicate with each other. So again, that close proximity is going to have a big impact on trying to even figure out if you're compatible. You won't really know if you're compatible with somebody unless you live with them, truth be told, because that's when you're going to get the real them, what they like when they wake up, what they like when they go to sleep, what they like when they hungry, sleepy, happy, upset, all of it. You get to see all of it. And that is when you really get to figure out if your personalities match. And again, I think that's where, like you said, being far apart may be something that he might not really like. Maybe he does like that closeness of being, and most people do, It's just one thing you have to consider if you're getting in these long distance relationships. It really adds a whole layer of being just a bit more complicated than if you're actually within the same area with each other.
Yep. And couples who accept each other's personalities are more likely to be able to deal with challenges of having different interests. This is because they understand that their spouse is not going to change, and that they need to accept them for who they are. There's that change thing. So you can inspire change in your spouse, but you cannot make them change. So that's something that everyone also too have to understand as well, who's facing these type of issues and situations, because I think that's what he wants her to do. He's trying to get her to change. And ultimately what what will happen is resentment or either isolation. Those type of
Yeah.
things will occur in the relationship that will actually add more distance than a airplane travel, you know.
Yeah,
So it will actually
that is
keep
true.
them further apart, if not have them to break up because of that.
Yeah.
So nobody likes to be forced into changing.
Yeah.
Let it naturally happen. Inspire them to change. Give them good word and praises about things, especially if they're playing a game that they don't like to play with you, and encourage them. So you're doing a great job trying.
Yeah.
So that's all
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah. Acceptance. I think acceptance is one of the hugest, the hugest is the biggest, one of the biggest characteristics that a good relationship needs to have, wanting to accept each other
Hmm.
just for who you are, not, wanting to, oh, I wish he wasn't so nerdy. I wish he didn't like this. I wish she didn't like this. I wish she did like this. Like, it's more about really just being able to accept each other and be all right with y'all being different, yet be interested in those differences and actually how to utilize them in a way that's going to benefit the relationship and not look at them like something that's supposed to make y'all not,
Right,
mesh.
right. Because this is only a small part of the relationship. Like they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So you got the same. You all have other things in your lives that you
Yeah.
enjoy other than just playing games. My
Hmm.
question, I wonder if he tried any of her interests, the things
Right.
that
That's
she
what I'm
likes to
saying.
do.
Yeah.
They go hiking, and she seems more practical than he is. So yeah, it's a personality thing, it's a hobby thing, but that's something that can be worked around.
Yeah.
So
Certainly with good conversation.
yeah,
Hmm.
communication. So couples who are flexible and willing to compromise are more likely to be able to have a happy relationship, even if they have different interests. This is because they are willing to give and take and not always get their own way. Take,
Hmm.
take, take. He seems to be a much of a taker, if you ask me. And then also to understand that compromise doesn't always mean a win-win. It can also means a win-lose or lose-lose
Yeah.
situation. So
Oh,
don't
excuse me.
always think that you have to win at a compromise or a negotiation.
Right.
You have to be willing to be flexible, like we said before, in order to make the relationship work, because the relationship is not just about you, it's about you all,
Yeah.
both of y'all.
Yeah.
So you have to navigate it that way as a team effort.
Yes, yes, certainly, certainly. And like you said, be both interested in each other, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. If couples, though, out of these qualities that we have talked about, the most important ones, real quick, just to run through one more time, you do have to have similar values and goals, because if you're more likely to be compatible in that way, even if you have different interests, yeah, they won't really matter too much. But you definitely have to be able to communicate effectively and certainly have to be able to problem solve so that you can talk about your differences and find those ways to compromise. And you got to have that trust, you got to have that respect. And it's a plus if you have the compatible personalities with each other in general, which, like we said, the only way you can know that is if you're really actively with this person enough to really know if y'all mesh or not. So I think that's where a lot of that, y'all have to make sure that these boxes are checked off and you're actually hitting these qualities in order to have a happy, fulfilling relationship with different interests, for sure.
Yep. And remember, you can still be supportive of your spouse's interests, even if you don't share them.
Yeah.
So this means being interested in hearing about their hobbies, asking questions, encouraging them to pursue their interests. It doesn't mean that you have to join them in their hobbies, but you should be respectful of them.
Yeah. I think it's nice that she's wanting to, learn about it. But like, I think of me back, us getting together and your interest in video games. Naturally, because I like to spend time with you, I was interested in doing those things with you, especially when I had kids and stuff. I was interested in doing those things with you because it allowed us to spend more time together. But, it wasn't all the time. I was
Right.
able to respect, like, hey, that's your thing. Like, go and do your thing. Like, have your fun, and encourage that. And then it also encouraged him to come back and talk to me about whatever, he did. Like, being able to ask questions based off of the, conversations that he has. I'm listening to what you say. I'm taking it in, trying to gain some understanding, not so much that I'm trying to know exactly, trying to be a pro at the same game he's playing, but I'm just able to have conversation because I know the words, I know what he's talking about, I know the game, the names of the players and stuff like that. It just adds that layer of us being able to talk and him being able to express his interests to me, and I'm supportive of that. That does not mean that I need to get up there and play them video games with him. Like, that's not my thing, but I'm totally able to be supportive of that and still have my own thing as well too. Which you come back and you ask me questions. Hey, how'd you like what you did? What is this? And especially if you don't know nothing about it, you're like, what's that about? Like, oh, cool. It's all right to be different. It's really, I think you just have to find those common ground areas to where if you don't have similar interests, you are able to find things that you guys can do together, things that you are interested in. That's why we said the goals, having those goals that are really going to help progress the relationship more in a grown-up way is definitely going to do more for your bond and strengthen your foundation of your relationship than just, trying to connect on video games and stuff like that. So,
yeah. And then,
let me see. These are just some general tips that we kind of thought about.
Yep.
I have wrote down just some general tips from when we were talking about ways that you can enjoy your differences but still make the relationship work and then not be so awkward or anything like that.
And so the first one is find common ground. So even if you don't share all the same interests, there are probably some things that you do enjoy together. So find out what those things are and focus on those. And then next, I wanted to talk about this. Look into activities that you can do together that don't require you to have the same interests. I would even say share different interests. So, if he wants to play video games, then you all can pick a movie day or something and watch a movie that she likes to watch. So you have to compromise there. So be willing to try new things. So just because you've never been interested in something before doesn't mean you won't like it.
Yeah.
Be willing to try new things with your spouse, even if it's outside of the comfort zone. So this could be anything from playing games to going on vacations. So it's important to find activities that you can both enjoy and that brings you closer together. Different date activities like escape rooms, things like that. We've never done that before. That'll probably be cool, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Things you've never done before, and be okay with trying it.
Right.
It don't got to be something you both are interested in. It could be one of those things where y'all just, I thought one cute trend was the ABC date thing where couples go out and find a thing to do based off the alphabet. Yeah. Where it's something that you probably both have no idea about, but you're going and creating memories and bonds and experiences together. Right. That is going to strengthen you far more than just doing the same things together,
It's all about the memories. That's all. If y'all ain't figured that out, it's those dates and things that you all do together. It's really about the memories which strengthens the relationship. Like going out to play top golf or something. That's something we've never done. Those things I really don't care about, but I'll try it with you, of course.
Yeah, different dates we do. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a bunch of different activities that you could really do. So that's the main focus, I think, out of all of this for sure, because you don't have to do the same things. I think it's actually very good, like you were saying, for you to have those moments of where you're able to do your own separate things. It gives you that refresher. You have something great to talk about when you come back together, and you're able to be independent. You don't always got to be up on each other doing the same thing and stuff like that. It's all right. Like, it's not like you have to spend every waking moment together, and it's not a big deal if you want to spend some time apart. Especially if it gives you some time to miss your person, you're excited to get back to them.
Yeah. So next, set boundaries. So it's important to set boundaries around your time and energy. So just because you don't share the same interests don't mean that you have to do everything together. Be honest with your spouse about what you're willing and not willing to do. Right.
Yeah. You can say no if you don't want to do something that your spouse want to do. Like, that's okay. Have those boundaries too. If there's something activity that you just like, nah, I ain't about that, baby. Like, that's cool. Like, don't take that personal. That's the next real point about all of this. Just don't take it personal. If your spouse doesn't want to share in the interests that you are interested in, it's important to remember that we're all different and you can have different interests and be able to respect each other still and love each other still and, be okay with that. You got to find peace with that, truth be told.
Yep. And then next, celebrate your differences. So your differences can be a source of strength in your relationship. Celebrate the things that make you unique and appreciate each other for who you are.
Yeah. Because you're going to be different. It's not. We always talk about that. That's all right. We've said that plenty of times. Celebrate that, though. Highlight those things. Those things, I think, in particular, are what's going to show your strengths in the relationship. So in a way, you want them to be different. You want one spouse to be great at something, the next spouse to be great at the other thing that the other spouse may not be so good at. That's how you have that good balance of, being able to support each other. You both don't need to always be doing the same thing. That can lead to some competition. So that's all right to have, we have competitive card games and stuff like that. We know we're competitive in those senses, but you really don't have to always look to fantasize that being what she said, being the perfect spouse.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good Marriage Fit Friday topic.
Yeah, that is very good. That's very good because that'll break the stagnicity in a relationship of people who can't move further because they think it's based on hobbies or similar interests.
Yeah.
And that's such I think a remedial mindset to have when it comes to dating.
Yeah.
And it's actually more than that. So
I think it's fairy tale-ish, very
fanciful.
Yes, very fanciful. Great word. I think
Right.
it is. It really is. Regardless if it comes from a man or a woman, truth be told, it is. It's fanciful. You can't. It's not like that.
No, not at all. It's not not at all.
Yeah. I mean, but don't get me wrong. We are best friends. I would consider us the bestest friend. There's nothing I don't know about him and vice versa. It's just that's how it is on that sense. But you don't have to be best friends in every area. Some things are reserved for the boys, and that's cool. Some things are reserved for the girls. That's fine too. Let that be. You don't have to try to
mesh it all together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, objections, challenges?
Let's see. Hold on. Let me click on our Hey Instagram. Thank you all for joining
Anybody
us.
going through anything that they want to question or talk to us about?
Video chat, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. Yep. Hanging on out with us. I hope you all have gotten something from this. I don't think do you like the same video games as me? That has to be one of the boxes that a person checks to know if that's your spouse.
If it is, then make that something that doesn't have, you don't have to wait 8 months in order to find out. Find that out between the first and third date, and if that's a deal breaker. But if it is a deal breaker for you, good luck finding somebody. Right. Go to Comic-Con or something and pick one of those people.
Yeah.
Which they may share similar interests with you or whatever the case may be, but that's very restrictive as far as finding love, and more than likely it's going to put you at a deficit in order to try to find somebody. You're going to waste a lot of time and go through a lot of dates and money in order to find that one person who wants to play World of Warcraft with you, which is crazy.
Right. I'm curious. Again, I think that's why she has to ask questions, because I'm curious as to what he thinks the role of his wife is supposed to look like.
Well,
if y'all got kids, how's she supposed to be playing video games with you? He's
gonna get a rude awakening about that. Goodness gracious, because he's not gonna be playing video games either.
So not like that. No, yeah, life changes,
especially if you have children.
Yeah,
but he's probably that type of guy that don't want to have children because he himself is probably a big child, a big kid.
Yeah, relationships about maturity. You really got to be mature.
It is.
You really, really do. Yeah, and I think with the video game world, I don't think there's anything wrong with video games at all. But I think with the video game world and just how a lot of people indulge a lot in their hobbies 24/7, it can seem like when you have to do real life things, like it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, like I'd rather just do this. That's not what I visualize my life to be. When real life happens, you can't really just do all of your hobbies all the time. You really got to find that compromise.
Yep.
Yeah, be all right with it.
Indeed. Indeed. So, Blueprint family, thank you all for joining us tonight again for another Marriage Fit Friday. You made it to the weekend. You all enjoy it. Have a wonderful long weekend for those people who don't have to work on labor. All week.
Hey.